Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. I take this opportunity to welcome all of you on behalf of our Vice Chancellor and Registrar of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences for this continued medical education program and nursing education programs conducted for prevention and control of COVID-19. This is an ongoing series which is continued from the first wave. I take this Vice Chancellor to provide his opening remarks. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir.
Yeah, very good afternoon. All the resource persons from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences and ECO India constantly conducting online educational programs related to the COVID-19, and we have been conducting this 1.5 years during our first wave, and it has been continuing, and it will be a useful program for our healthcare workers. And today we have two topics. The first topic is lessons learned by nurses worldwide by Dr. Rohini Paul from Aster Group of Hospitals. The other topic is nursing care of pediatric. Shirley, pediatric nursing expert, and it will be a very useful program for our healthcare workers. I welcome you, madam, for this very important and useful program for our healthcare workers. And I welcome everyone who have logged in for this program, and I hope it will be beneficial for you. COVID pandemic. Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. I want to thank the Vice Chancellor and Rajiv Gandhi University, all the members for this continuous effort of teaching us and taking us to a different level. I sincerely want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity today. So when I talk about the lessons learned, because we have already gone through 1.5 years, and last year, 2020, was the International Year of Nurse and Midwife. Started but 200 years back, Florence Nightingale started this nursing profession, and it's worldwide been recognized. Now, but this year, fortunately, unfortunately, it was made as 2020 was the International Year of Nurse and the Midwife. So what happens? Year of nurses. So that's the time the COVID-19 crisis demands nursing, addressing big healthcare challenges. Of course, nurses went through all over the world. COVID, nurses managed this crisis. It definitely moved the nurses into a global spotlight that we all know. The world, many people across the world, countries have started recognizing the work the nurses doing, the nurses are going through. So definitely year of nursing could be justified with what we have gone through for this past 1.5 years. There's a lot of things we learned, but at the end of this session, I think that is what my aim in presenting this session. So nurses' fear of life. I tell you, there was a period worldwide, there was a talk when there was a scarcity for nurses number, They said, we will soon make robot nurses, to do the nursing job. So nurses were very angry. So they said, no, it's not going to be, it's a personal touch and all that. But this time when it came as the COVID situation, I felt it. Why can't there some machine take care of so that many of the nurses will not die of this? So there was a fear of life first time came. I was a nurse for many years. I've never been afraid that I'm going to die taking care of my patient, doing certain things, even cleaning the formalin cupboards, which so much twice I have fainted. I know, but never I felt that I'm going to die. But the COVID fear of her own life came. So that's what it is. So nurses' activity across the world, definitely it is different. Lifestyle across the world, it is different. The values, yes, different countries have different values for nurses. But one thing I'm sure, COVID made it one across the world, which all of us have experienced. What in Australia, what in Italy, a nurse experience in United States of America, downtown, every the same. First time the concept of fear of nurse death came. That is what I could tell you. But this experience, what we have gone through, is carrying us through for another 1 century, which I can assure you as a nurse, this is what it is. As a lesson we will be learning, we have already learned. So some more things, nurses experiences what COVID brought. To start with the last year, of course, in the beginning stage of waves, also normally the unit of hospitals will have fever clinic, separate respiratory disease unit, infectious disease unit, intensive care unit. Yes, we all know. And according to the nurses' experience, the nurses were allotted these areas. They were doing the work. And they were posted in such areas, or they were being given that kind of an exposure experience to work in such places. But COVID brought totally a different scenario in the recent past. So see, this is what in one of the places they have just created beds. Nurses accepted this. So I want to tell you one of my experience where a big hospital, mission hospital where I worked, there was one of the nurses station was done without my nurse in charge permission or with her kind of approval. So when it was done, I remember she came and she was screaming and she said, how can they do without telling me? This is what I would have expected. So that I have experience, but this is what a nurse could accept. A ward is made, a room is created for patients. So nurses accepted it. It's a lesson we have learned. So furthermore, conversion of beds, increased number of suspected cases. We have seen all this. We have gone through this terminology. Increased number of suspected cases, increased number of confirmed cases. We have been hearing these terminologies. Different wave 1 and wave 2. We are even looking for wave 3. And normally isolated beds are few in hospitals. We may have 4 beds, 6 beds, maximum maybe 20 beds. But now COVID made general wards converted into isolation wards. If you see the whole hospital's been converted into isolation hospital. What a lesson a nurse could learn. More than this, nothing more. I'm telling you, and we accepted it. We nurses accepted it. We didn't have. Again, one more thing is, nurse versus isolation. Look, isolation versus PPE. It's one another area. We have learned a lot of lessons. So traditionally, isolation nurse works in an isolation unit. I have seen, we never had a fear. I have worked in isolation wards. Never. Certain protocols we follow, and that's all. But COVID pushed all the nurses to isolation unit work. As we said, that wards are converted, the hospitals are converted to become isolation. Very nurses have new minimal, of course, the PPE, very few PPE, which all of us know. Even when it comes to MDR, we have taken care with separate allocation with PPE, minimal PPE. But COVID brought the extraordinary PPE. So COVID PPE with a minimal education. See, now in this year, 2021, June, we have learned so many studies, so many literatures, so many continuous. Sir is telling about 1.5 years, Rajiv Gandhi University itself has done the continuous education. So imagine across the world, lot of studies have come up. So now, but at the beginning of last year, what we know about PPE for COVID, very minimal. So wave one nurses have least awareness of the virus and the dangers that we all know. We went through it. We lost many of them. Nurses were challenged and more. So this is what the lesson we have learned, and we could do it, and we have already proved it. This is what I could boldly tell you. So now when you look at this picture, how many of us gone through this kind of situation in our whole life? I don't think not many. Maybe somebody lost some of loved ones, maybe somebody might hug. But when it comes to thinking our own work, our own feelings, it is COVID has brought in impact. You must be seeing millions of pictures like this. So nurses, yes, we played a pivotal role across the healthcare industry, achieving healthcare goals. Yes, we have achieved greater goals in life, and we have provided highly specific technical care to patients. Yes, with all the advancement, DCA, NIBH, so much, and we have coordinated with so many other professionals. But again, COVID, coping strategies, undergoing changes, dealing with stressful event, which is something totally different, which we have gone through. And I don't need to explain. And it's not only because these nurses working in the hospital, the family has gone through fear of death. That is what it is. So, and again, when you think of stress, nurses are used to, very much we are used to patients, yes. And the patients are sick, yes, we have taken care of thousands and thousands of sick patients. But what happened in COVID? Suddenly, it made sick patients become very sick. The virus impacted everyone, no matter what. Young patients are moved to ICU. This is really, heartaching, heartbreaking. The young were moved to ICU. The younger patient died without any warning. We have seen it. So imagine what a nurse goes through stress. Even recently, I have seen nurses crying. They just died. So this is all a new experience, new lessons we have learned. And most patients in the ICU are intubated. So this is one more thing. Yes, we have seen ICUs. I have taken so much classes for nurses, but suddenly, patients, young patients being intubated, then there is nothing more. This is the situation, and nurses were unprepared. So this is one more thing. And what the world could think of us with all this, what we went through, what exactly the world accepted. Yes, they all said we are angels, all that stuff. The new life experience, strategies to protect themselves. Yes, what kind of strategy? Changing into new attire before entering home. Yes, before going home, of course, everybody, but when it comes to nurses, because we are with the patient for 12 hours and more. So totally we change. Then we go take bath. As soon as not touching anybody, nobody should be, just go straight, take bath and take care of the dirty clothes, whatever it is. And nurses isolated themselves at home. I have heard even a nurse from Canada, she says 3 months. I have never seen the first floor, my children, my mother, husband. I just went to the basement. I took bath, my food was kept, and I ate. After 3 months only, I went, when did we go through this kind of experience? This is what COVID taught us during this 1.5 years. Neighbors didn't want to associate with nurses. Yes, I have seen. They said no. Nurses were not given houses. Yes, this is a new experience for us. And systematic multiple hand washing, imagine washing. And social distancing, yes, of course. But when it comes to patients, the patient expected, because there's no relative be with them when they're dying. Where is the social distancing? No, it was not there. That much they went and they did, and so on. So the last slide. So what is the first experience for the nurse? 100 years back, the world experienced a pandemic, 1990, Spanish flu. We all knew it. We learned about it now. Now, nursing profession had very limited knowledge. Then it was in 1919. COVID, now nursing profession has a vast knowledge. We have reached very high level, but never had a previous experience of COVID. Unfortunately, we never had a previous experience of COVID that before February of 2020. Now think of 2119, exactly after 100 years from now. Nurses will have many histories to teach. Yes, of course, there will be a lot of histories, lot of journals, lot of literatures, lot of studies. Yes, I'm sure then things will be better, and let us hope for the best. And I'm sure something we have learned, not something, greater things we have learned as nurses across the world. This is the first time we don't just talk about Bangalore nurses, Indian nurses, Karnataka nurses. We talk about nurses. Now, what we do, yes, Corona, according to us, wave 2 is almost leaving us. So what we say, leave us alone, Corona. And of course, I'm telling you, thank you for going. So that is one thing. And with that, I just want to thank all of you who are part of this and to hear whatever I could say. And I'm very proud of my nurses. I'm sure we have been taken through a lot of learning in life and a lot of learning for the future. And I'm the nurses. And once again, I want to thank you for the organizers from Rajiv Gandhi University. Thank you all very much. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask.
Dayanand, you can invite the next speaker. Dr. Dayanand? Dr. Dayanand? Dr. Rupashri, you can invite the next speaker.
Thank you, Mahendra sir. So may I now invite the second speaker, Shirley VM madam, to take over. Shirley madam, are you there? Upendra, just check if madam is there. Madam, we can see your slide. You can start with the presentation.
Shirley madam, any problem?
Upendra, can you please see if there is any problem?
No, sir, there is
No,
no.
no, no. No, madam is going to start now, I think.
Yes.
Ah. Madam, you proceed, madam. It's
Sir, the problem is from Shirley ma'am sides. Sir, mic not working. Sir.
Madam, you are muted. Computer audio you
Muted.
have to turn on.
We are not able to hear you. Can you please connect your? Upendra, is there a problem with the mic?
Yes, sir. Is that maybe there is a problem with ma'am's mic
Can you please guide the speaker?
because her audio is connected, but her voice is not coming, sir.
I know.
Ma'am, can you?
Ma'am, you can just, yes, please.
Ma'am, can you re-log in the meeting? Just leave the audio or connect it again. Should be option of mute and unmute inside corner. Just click on that arrow and leave the computer audio. Yes, ma'am. You are muted now. Unmute you again. And please speak something, ma'am, now.
Mhm.
No, ma'am, it's not audible. Ma'am, just click the arrow key from the mute option. There is a arrow, one arrow is there. And leave your computer at idle for now.
Also, ma'am, you can do one thing also. If nothing is happening, so you can just log out from the session and then rejoin. Maybe it will work.
Addressed
లేదు మేడం కే ఫోన్ చేసి ఉండకపోతుంది.
మ్యూట్ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾತಾಡೋದು. ಇಷ್ಟೇ.
Asking you as your guidance.
Shirley madam, can you please unmute yourself? I'm giving you the option.
Next slide. In India, around 40% of population are children less than 19 years. In this, when COVID was affected, around less than 10 to 20% of children were requiring hospitalization. And out of that, the children who had serious illness and requiring intensive care admission was only one. With multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, a post-COVID infection state, the data is still not available. Next slide. Though the data from India were limited, the mortality among hospitalized COVID-19 positive children below the age of 10 was only 2.4%. About 40% of children who died had comorbidities, and 9% of all hospitalized COVID positive children presented with a severe illness was less than 10 years of age. Between 1st March and 4th April, in India, there was a surge of COVID states, namely Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka, and Uttar Pradesh. Karnataka, around 40,000 of children. Next slide, please. Around 40,000 of children between 0 to 9 years and 1,05,044 children between the age of 10 to 19 years have tested positive between 19th March to 18th May of this year. 12.1% of neonates born to COVID positive mother also were. Now coming to the main topic, pediatric COVID-19. If we see the data, Corona has been kind to kids during the first and second wave. First wave, it affected the geriatric population. Second wave, it affected the younger crowd. Even though children were infected with the virus, they were asymptomatic or had mild to moderate symptoms. So now everyone's concerned, especially the parents, are worried about the third wave, which may affect children as they are. We can see the difference between the pediatric and adult COVID-19. Similar to adult, the commonest clinical features are fever and cough. However, their frequency is much lower in children. Like adults, gastrointestinal manifestation, especially diarrhea and vomiting, are frequently seen in children and sometimes may be the sole manifestation of COVID-19 in children. Overall, respiratory symptoms followed by gastrointestinal symptoms are the predominant manifestation in children, as well as multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. This is a post-COVID state infection, which is also seen after the children were affected with the COVID-19, but it was a rare infection. Coming into the severity classification, the COVID-19 in children are classified into mild disease, moderate disease, severe disease, and critical disease. In mild disease, most of the children had fever, sore throat, rhinorrhea, cough, diarrhea, vomiting, pain abdomen, and the
in moderate disease, pneumonia, it is fast breathing. Actually, it is age based. If it is more than 60 per minute in less than 2 months children, more than 50 per minute in 2 to 12 months old children, and for 1 to 5 years, it is more than 40, and more than 30 if it is more than 5 years old children, and SpO2 between 90 to 94%, and there is no signs of severe pneumonia, they will be categorized into moderate disease. In severe disease cyanosis, SpO2 is less than 90%, increased respiratory rate, inability to complete full sentences, lethargy, somnolence, seizures, or any severe GI symptoms, they will be categorized into severe disease and critical disease. All these symptoms associated with ARDS, sepsis, septic shock, multi-organ dysfunction syndrome, acute thrombosis, or multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. Next slide, please. It can be classified into asymptomatic, mild, moderate, severe, and Miss C. So asymptomatic children, they usually require home isolation, and mild symptoms, they require home isolation and symptomatic management. Moderate symptoms, they require admission in COVID ward or PICU. Severe, critical, and Miss C children requires admission in PICU. Next slide. Asymptomatic COVID-19. This is identified during screening for COVID-19 infection for any reason, but there asymptomatic COVID-19 infection mainly from the family members or caretaker contact. Next slide. So for the mild symptoms or asymptomatic symptoms, the first treatment is home isolation. We have to keep these children under home isolation. Emphasis on frequent hand washing with soap and water and sanitizing the hand with 70% alcohol solution. Ensure adequate rest for them. Do not allow the child to mingle with other family members, especially the old people at home. Ensure adequate nutritious diet and plenty of oral fluids. Regular disinfection of all surfaces coming in contact with the child. The caretaker also should strictly follow the COVID prevention measures while caring. And if there is any fever or symptoms are there, then we can give tablet paracetamol for this type of children. In home isolation, they should be kept under home isolation. No treatment is required. Monitor for development of danger sign. One important aspect of the care when the child is especially at home, regular communication between parent and doctor or healthcare worker should be there. And as per the new guidelines, there is a new test, that is 6-minute walk test can be conducted to find out whether there is any worsening of the symptoms. How we have to, what all things we need to explain to the parents. So parents need or caretaker to be explained regarding the following points when they are monitoring the child. So they have to monitor, especially the respiratory rate. They should be taught how to count the respiratory rate 2 to 3 times a day when the child is not crying. If the child cries, automatically the respiratory rate also increases. So it should be told to the parents that when they are counting the respiration, the child should not be drawing any bluish discoloration of the body, cold extremities, urine output should be monitored. SpO2 can be monitored if it is feasible at home, and fluid intake and activity level, especially for young children. And they should be told about all these danger signs, and the parents should be especially told that if there is any signs of this type of symptoms occurs, they should immediately report to the hospital. Next slide. The 6-minute walk test. This has to be conducted at home when the child is at home isolation. It is a simple clinical test to assess cardiopulmonary exercise tolerance and is used to unmask hypoxia. So it can be used in children about 12 years under supervision of parents or guardian. What we have to do is attach a pulse oximeter to his or her finger and ask the child to walk in the confines of their room for 6 minutes continuously. The 94% or absolute drop of more than 3 to 5% or feeling unwell while performing the test, or at the end of 6 minutes, like they may be having lightheadedness or shortness of breath, it indicates that it is a positive test. So children with a positive 6-minute walk test may progress to become hypoxic, and early admission to the hospital is recommended. So the test can be repeated every 6 to 8 hours. So this also should be explained to the parents when the child is at home. Mild COVID-19 disease, the child may present with fever, sore throat, rhinorrhea, cough with no breathing difficulty, conjunctivitis, and GI symptoms like diarrhea, vomiting, and pain abdomen, but this all will be in a minor intensity. Investigations are usually not required. Next slide. Investigations are usually not required if there is high-grade fever for 3 to 4 days. Then investigation can be done. RP, urinary, blood culture and sensitivity, and X-ray test can be done. Next slide. These children also can be kept under home isolation. They will be given symptomatic management. So there will be fever, so we can give paracetamol 10 to 15 milligram per kg 4 to 6 hourly for fever if it is more than 100 degree Fahrenheit. If the child is having cough, we can give antihistaminic if the child is more than 6 months old. Then warm saline gargles and lozenges for older children. Ensure adequate hydration and nutritious diet. Antibiotics are not indicated in mild COVID symptoms, because if there is only ruled out bacterial infection, then only antimicrobial therapy is indicated, and the 6-minute walk test also can be done. If the child is having diarrhea, then you can give ORS at home. Next slide. Or caretaker to maintain a monitoring chart for dangerous signs. The dangerous signs we had already explained previously. So the parents has to look for whether there is any chest indrawing, bluish discoloration of body, cold extremities, urine output, oxygen saturation, fluid intake, activity level. All these things needs to be monitored. So regular communication between parents and doctor or health worker is required, especially the child when he is kept under home isolation. Report immediately to emergency department in case of any danger signs, and children with underlying comorbid conditions. For example, if they are having congenital heart disease, chronic lung disease, or they are onco patients, all these type of children, and obese children, all these type of children are comorbid conditions. In that case, they should be admitted in the hospital. Next slide. This is the monitoring chart in the latest revision. So this can be kept in the home also. For when the child is kept under home isolation, this chart can be monitored. So the in this, the comorbid conditions, if any, how it is, whether it is controlled, yes or no, and the drugs being taken, any drug is taken for that, that will be mentioned. And the child will be monitored frequently at home, daily basis. Their lethargy or any malaise and shortness of breath, temperature, BP, nails or lips, chest indrawing, SpO2 and pulse rate, and physical activity will be monitored. This is very easy to monitor. The parents only needs to count and write, and otherwise they have to write yes or no or tick. So, and the 6-minute walk test also should be conducted when the child is at home. Next slide. Moderate COVID-19 disease. In addition to all the symptoms what we have discussed in mild disease, there can be respiratory rate. So we have to check for pneumonia, which may not be apparent, but it is age-based, less than 2 months. If the respiratory rate is more than 60 per minute, or 2 to 12 months, if it is more than 50 per minute, 1 to 5 years, more than 40, and more than 5 years, if it is more than 30 per minute, that indicates that the condition is worsening and the child may go into severe pneumonia later. So, and when we check the oxygen saturation, it may be more than 90, but it is between, and that in room air, and this type of children should be admitted in COVID ward or PICU. Next slide. Investigations, all the baseline investigations should be done at the time of admission, and the investigation can be repeated again after 24 to 48 hours, especially CBC, RFT, LFT will be repeated in 24 to 48 hours, and this interleukin level, if it is available in the hospital, then it can be repeated. HRCT test to be done only if there is worsening of symptoms. And X-ray test, there will be a series of X-ray will be done to find out whether the symptoms are improving or it is worsening. Next slide. So management of this type of children, they have to be admitted in COVID health care center. So initiate immediate 94% or increasing distress. We had already said that the main symptom in this will be the respiratory distress, the respiratory rate will be increased. So when they have respiratory distress and SpO2 is less than 94, we have to start with oxygen therapy, paracetamol 10 to 15 milligram per kg, 4 to 6 hourly for fever, and antimicrobials, usually amoxiclav is given, but only if there is evidence of strong suspicion of bacterial infection. Corticosteroids only in rapidly progressive disease it is given, otherwise it is not indicated in this case also. We have to maintain the fluid and electrolyte balance. The dehydration should be prevented in this type of children. Next slide. Awake proning if possible, especially young children, it will be little difficult because they will not lie for a longer time in the same position. So if it in older children, it can be practiced, position change to be done. So symptomatic management, as in mild cases, whatever we have discussed, it can be done, and supportive care for comorbid conditions, if any. So that should be done. Nursing management, next slide. 2-hourly monitoring, that is especially the child's temperature, pulse, respiration, BP, SpO2, capillary filling time, all needs to be monitored. Hydration status, especially whether the child is taking orally or not accepting the feed, oral intake is poor, then IV fluid should be started. We have to prevent dehydration. Sensorium to be monitored, whether there is any lethargy or child is not arousable. You have to monitor the urine output, monitor for any rapid progression of symptoms, especially the respiratory rate, and strictly follow COVID appropriate behavior. This has to be done by all the healthcare workers working in the COVID-19 ward, along with the where the child is admitted. We have to follow the COVID appropriate behavior strictly. Next slide. So awake proning, these are the various proning position, means the repositioning when we are doing. After proning, initially the patient can be in the prone position for around 2 hours, and then we can put him into right lateral recumbent or sitting up to 60 to 90 degree, and then left lateral recumbent. So these position frequently usually helps in more homogeneous ventilation and increased clearance of secretions. So the right side picture, you can see when the patient is on supine position, there is over distension of the ventral alveolus and compression of the dorsal alveolus. But when he is in prone position, the dorsal alveolus, there is decreased collapse, and ventral alveolus, there is decreased compression. So this also helps in draining out the secretions, as well as improves in the ventilation also. But we have to monitor the patient very frequently. Close monitoring is required when the patient is on awake prone positioning. Next slide. Next slide, please. There can be problems associated with the prone position. If we don't, that is why the position needs to be changed at every 2 hourly, because continuously if the child is lying on the same position for longer time, difficulties with the enteral feeding, there can be hypotension and arrhythmia, vascular and nerve compression, loss of venous access and probes. There can be loss of chest drain and catheters, accidental extubation. That is one of the most important thing we have to be very careful about, and apical atelectasis due to incorrect positioning of the tracheal tube. So these problems are there. So we have to anticipate the problem, and while making the patient in the prone position, we have to give utmost care to the patient. Next slide. Severe COVID-19 disease. So here the main clinical features will be pneumonia with any of the following. That is, there can be grunting and severe retraction will be there. It can be intercostal, substernal or subcostal retraction. So inability to complete a full sentence. Cyanosis will be present, SpO2 will be less than 90%. The child will be lethargic. He can have severe GI symptoms associated with the critical diseases like ARDS, septum, acute thrombosis or multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. So this type of children should be admitted in PICU. Next slide. Investigations. We have to carry out a lot of investigations in this case. Next slide. Day one investigation, there should be all basic investigation plus coagulation profile will be done. Additionally, investigation will be coagulation profile, baseline ECG, myocardial enzymes, 2D echo. All these things are very important, because in critical cases, there will be severe COVID cases, there will be mitral regurgitation seen. So that is why 2D echo is required. And if there is serum interleukin level 6 is more than 3 times upper limit, or ferritin is more than 300 microgram per liter with doubling in 24 hours, or ferritin and LDH more than 600 microgram per liter, and D-dimer is elevated. This indicates that there is a risk of cytokine storm. And chest X-ray and HRCT thorax or critically ill. So these will be done according to the case basis. If the symptoms are severe, it may be repeated more frequently also. Next slide. We have to manage these children. They should be admitted in a tertiary level healthcare facility. First thing is intimate, initiate immediate oxygen therapy, IV fluid therapy to prevent dehydration and maintain fluid electrolyte balance, corticosteroid therapy, 15 mg per kg per dose twice a day is preferred. Otherwise, even same equivalent dose of methyl prednisolone also can be given for 5 to 14 days, depending on continuous clinical assessment. Antiviral agents, remdesivir should be used in a restricted manner, because it is used only in children with a severe COVID illness within 3 days of onset of symptoms, after ascertaining the renal and liver functions are normal or not. Then when we are administering remdesivir, the side effects of remdesivir to be noted, and the infusion should be given in a very slow pace. Otherwise, the child can have various side effects related to remdesivir. So there is a lack of sufficient safety and efficacy data with respect to remdesivir of children less than 18 years of age. So it has to be used with caution. So oral zinc and vitamin C also can be added. Then coming to ARDS, next slide. If ARDS develops, necessary management to be initiated. Management of shock. This is severe cases, so a child will be having shock. Crystalloid bolus administration 10 to 20 ml per kg over 30 to 60 minutes can be given. Early inotrope support with the monitoring of fluid overload. Antimicrobials to be administered if there is evidence of strong superadded bacterial infection. They may need organ support in case of organ dysfunction also, like a renal replacement. In case of respiratory distress, if the child is having ARDS, respiratory support to target saturation 92 to 94%, pH at a level of 7.1 and PCO2 between 40 to 60 millimeter of mercury to be maintained. If he is having mild ARDS, we can manage with a face mask or HFNC or NRBM, CPAP or BiPAP. Severe ARDS, mechanical ventilation to be given with a low tidal volume with a high PEEP. Children, hypoxemic children, if they tolerate, and use liberal neuromuscular blockade to prevent coughing. Otherwise, there will be again accidental extubation. And if the child does not improve clinically, even then may consider high frequency oscillatory ventilation or extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. Next slide. As per the WHO had recommended the following drugs for the use of severe COVID-19. Pulse methylprednisolone can be given at a rate of 10 to 30 milligram per kg per day for 3 to 5 days, or dexamethasone 0.15 mg per kg day. BD dose can be given. It is given only if there is moderate and rapidly progressive illness with hypoxia. So severe and critical COVID-19 cases, steroids are indicated. Remdesivir, again, severe and critical cases only it will be given, but it has to be used with caution. If the child's weight is more than 40 kg, 200 milligram on day 1 followed by 100 milligram OD, and 3.5 to 40 kg, 5 milligram per kg on day 1 followed by 2.5 milligram per kg OD for 5 to 10 days. Since there is a chances of thromboembolism, anticoagulants can be added. Low molecular weight heparin, prophylactic dose if we are giving 0.5 mg per kg, subcutaneous BD, or therapeutic dose 1 mg per kg. Then tocilizumab 8 mg per kg IV infusion can be given over 8 hours in case of severe COVID-19. Next slide. We have to anticipate for thromboembolism, especially children more than 14 years, if they have obesity, or they are on central line, mechanical ventilation, malignancy, nephrotic syndrome, congenital heart disease, post-splenectomy, hemoglobinopathy, and cystic fibrosis. All these children are at a high risk for developing thromboembolism. So care to be taken. This type of severe COVID-19 children, constant monitoring of any worsening of symptoms should be done. Frequent positioning should be done. Monitor for fluid overload if the baby is on ionotrope. Encourage for enteral nutrition. If the baby is on methylprednisolone, we have to monitor the potassium depletion and also monitor for serum electrolytes and blood glucose levels. Monitor for side effects of remdesivir, because an infusion reaction may occur with remdesivir with symptoms such as low or high blood pressure. There can be dizziness or rhythm irregularities. There can be GI symptoms and shivering. So a slower rate of infusion may help to lessen the risk of this reaction, and the healthcare professional should monitor for all the side effects during remdesivir treatment. Next slide. COVID, other things what we have to monitor is avoid live vaccines during prednisolone therapy. So as such, they are immunocompromised when they are on prednisolone therapy. All the live vaccines should be avoided. Monitor coagulation profile and RFT if the baby is on any anticoagulant therapy. Monitor for any potential side effects. For example, if they are on anticoagulant, they are at a high risk for developing bleeding disorders. So that has to be monitored. Monitor for early signs of thromboembolism. All healthcare workers strictly follow disinfection protocols. Any surface which is coming in contact with the child or area where we are caring, it should be disinfected properly with either 2% glutaraldehyde or 2% bacillocide. And the area, if it is visibly clean, it should be cleaned with soap and water first, and then the disinfectant should be used. Proper disposal of biomedical waste, very important part of nursing responsibility. Dispose the biomedical waste properly. This itself will cause the spread of disease. Next slide. While caring for the patient, education and training of subordinate staff is also very important, because they ultimately they are caring for a child who is having COVID-19, and they should be able to identify the early signs or early signs of worsening of symptoms, or there should be any superimposed bacterial or fungal disease, anything is there, they should be able to find out early. So this education should be given to the subordinate staff. Next slide. Okay. For discharge criteria for this type of children, after 10 days of symptom onset, if there is clinical resolution of symptoms, SpO2 more than 95% and O4 oxygen for 4 days, followed by home isolation and self monitoring, is not needed for discharge of these children from the hospital. Only if the resolution of clinical symptoms are there, then we can discharge them. Next slide. This is the multi-inflammatory multi-system inflammatory syndrome children, that is also known as MIS-C. It is a post-COVID inflammatory state seen in children between 6 to 51 days post-infection with the clinical similarities to. So children and adolescents between 0 to 19 years of age who present with a fever more than 3 days with suspected or probable or confirmed COVID-19 infection with various clinical features should be investigated to confirm MIS-C. Next slide. The main clinical features are, in this picture, you can see all the other symptoms will be there. Along with that, their multiple organs will be affected. So the main vital organs like brain, heart, kidney, lungs, and the GI system will be affected. So they can have, along with the fever, conjunctivitis, rashes, all these are the normal signs and symptoms of COVID-19. Along with that, they can have myocarditis, increased troponin level, increased brain natriuretic peptide, coronary aneurysm, hypotension, hypoperfusion, tachycardia. They can have hypoxemia, pulmonary infiltrates and chest pain, failure, hyponatremia, and GI symptoms like nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. And when the lab investigations are done, it may show thrombocytopenia, neutrophilia, and lymphopenia also. Next slide. This is the percentage of organ affected in MIS-C. In this, you can see the gastrointestinal signs are the more, gastrointestinal system is the most affected. And in case of severe form, myocarditis is 44%, and in severe form, it is 86%. So the heart involvement is always there. So we have to be very careful. It is a post-COVID infection. It is also known as CAVA COVID-19. Next slide. So what is the, how we can differentiate, how we will distinguish the normal COVID-19, serious COVID-19 cases and MIS-C from other cases. So most patiently healthy children, whereas most hospitalized with severe COVID-19 pneumonia had pre-existing conditions like diabetes, obesity, and neurodevelopmental disorders. Children with COVID-19 typically present with respiratory distress, whereas children with MIS-C usually present with abdominal pain, vomiting, and diarrhea. Children with COVID-19 have detectable SARS-CoV-2 virus by PCR, whereas those with MIS-C children have detectable antibodies to SARS-CoV-2. Because it is a post-COVID infection, yeah, the only antibody detection you can find out they are having antibodies. So also patients with the MIS-C tended to have higher inflammatory markers reflecting a cytokine storm state. Next slide. So if children come with this type of signs and symptoms, what type of investigations to be done? So for them, all the basic investigation what we were doing for the severe cases, that markers will be done, and along with that, investigation to rule out a non-COVID causes of fever. There, because there also symptoms may be almost the same, like malaria, dengue, enteric fever, rickettsial illness, or leptospirosis. The investigation should be done to rule out the non-COVID causes also. Next slide. Management. The injection methyl prednisolone 1 to 2 mg per kg per day in 2 divided doses can be given for these children. Injection IVIG 2 gram per kg over 24 to 48 hours. First line antimicrobial covering gram positive, gram negative, and atypical organism to be started empirically. Miss it with no life-threatening condition, then rule out for tropical infection first. Next slide. In case of thrombocytosis or coronary aneurysm, we have to start with aspirin 3 to 5 mg per kg per day, maximum heparin 1 mg per kg twice daily, subcutaneous. Taper steroids over 2 to 3 weeks while monitoring inflammatory markers. For children with cardiac involvement, ECG needs to be repeated every 48 hourly and repeat echo at 7 to 14 days and between 4 to 6 weeks. If there is no improvement or worsening of symptoms, repeat IVIG or pulse methyl prednisolone therapy at 10 to 30 milligram per kg per day for 3 to 5 days. This is the summary of the MIS-C treatment which is given by DGHS. Same thing what we have, what I had explained now in a concise form. Next slide. What is the discharge criteria and follow-up for MIS-C children? So the discharge period of 48 hours with a stable clinical status or cardiac function without vasoactive drugs. If they are there, then we can plan the discharge. Inflammatory markers should be decreasing. Follow-up at 1 to 2 weeks and 4 to 6 weeks, we have to do the follow-up. Clinical evaluation should be done during the follow-up. CRP and echo to be repeated during the follow-up visit. Trends of LDH and neutrophil lymphocyte ratio are good predictors of disease severity. ECG on each follow-up who had a severe disease, it should be done whenever they come for the follow-up if they had a severe disease. Next slide. Coming to the mental health aspect of the children. As a parent, we have to take care of their mental health aspect also. So children, they know they are confined to, we know that they are confined to home since last 1.5 years. So they are exposed to various newses and they are socially isolated. So it will affect mentally, limit children's exposure to news. So we have to limit the exposure to news, and should be whatever information we are giving, that should be fact-based, so that a consistent routine is followed by the child for play, adequate time for play, read, rest, and physical activity. Spend quality time with the children. The parent should spend quality time with the children. If there is excessive internet use related to COVID-19, also should be avoided, because it can lead to anxiety. Similarly, excessive and irresponsible use of social media or internet gaming should be cautioned against. Because now and since last 1.5 years, so their screen time is as such it is increased, which may cause another problem in the future. Next slide. Education. Next slide, please. Education. This is the most affected area of the child's, most affected area in a child's life, because almost since last 13 months, they haven't seen their school, their teachers or friends, and totally confined to home. So measures to prevent the virus from spreading and tackling the uncertain situation pose risk to the psychological well-being of the children. The steps taken such as closing school, limiting social interactions, imposing travel restrictions, halting sports activities, and transitioning all to online classes have endangered emotional stress, fear, and anxiety among the children and their caregivers. And distance learning. So this also added additional strain on having additional strain on internet connectivity and delivery of education at home means it is an added burden to the parents also. And so this also has to be taken care of. And whenever a child who is already susceptible to mental health crisis, a collaborative approach to children should be done so that we can prevent further problems. Next slide. For preventing all this, so all these problems can be prevented if we take some measures. We have to limit the exposure to virus by fully vaccinating both the parents. You know, children are isolated. As children stay with their families, their exposure to the virus can be reduced by fully vaccinating both the parents. Governing bodies should prepare pediatric ICU as we are expecting the third wave of COVID-19. The governing body should prepare pediatric ICU with ventilators, disposables used for children, and other necessary equipments. Increase the production of medicine needed for pediatric COVID-19 treatment and fast track clinical trials for vaccination among children. We know they are the only group vaccinated. So that is the worry about the next wave, and restrict social gathering across the nation. Next slide. Ensure that COVID related restrictions continue. Now everyone think that when the cases are coming down, we can all people come out. So then they forget to maintain social distancing and wearing mask and hand sanitization. So these all things has to continue even the cases are reduced. And do not reopen schools immediately, because immediately there will be a surge of COVID-19. So educate children using creative material about COVID safety, hygiene practices, and how the transmission happens, and monitor them at home. Ensure they eat a healthy and home cooked food so that their immunity will be high and so that they contract less infection. Next slide. So we all have to stay safe by taking COVID, wearing a mask at all time, maintaining social distancing, keeping your hands sanitized. All those things needs to be done continuously. Remember, the most important thing is if children gets affected and gets hospitalized, they will be admitted along with the mother. They are not going to admitted alone. They will be admitted with the mother. So it will cause an added burden on health infrastructure also. So a global pandemic requires no less than a world effort to end it. Life has to continue even when COVID-19 advent of vaccine in the present scenario has offered a ray of hope towards nearing the end of this pandemic. But we have to remember always that the children are not vaccinated. So as we are anticipating the third wave of COVID-19, which may target children, this is a moment for all of us to come together in solidarity to fight back against this deadly virus. Thank you so much. And issues what happened from my side, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak in the RGHS platform. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Now over to Dr. Rupashri for the question and answer session. Dr. Rupashri.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to one and all. And first of all, thank you very much for our today's speaker, Dr. Rohini Paul from Aster Units. And thanks to Shirley madam for giving this talk. So I'll take up a few of the questions in the chat box. The first question is, when vaccine shouldn't be given to the children, or in what condition should it be avoided?
Ma'am, if the child is on prednisolone therapy or especially live infected with COVID-19, and then in that case, if he is on prednisolone therapy, the live vaccine should be avoided. And if the child is affected with the COVID after 30 days of recovery, only if he is due for vaccine, then only it is recommended. And as such now, that is about a normal vaccine. The vaccine in the COVID vaccine in children are not yet come to India. We have not yet started. Only in some countries after the children aged 12 and above it is started, but in India still it is not started, and we are expecting that maybe from July it may start. So otherwise normal vaccine, if the children are having prednisolone therapy, live vaccine should not be given if they are on immunocompromised treatment.
Right, ma'am. Right, ma'am. Thank you. Do we have any hand raised, please, Chair? Okay. So Mahendra sir is asking, during home isolation of children, what type of diet should be given?
Ma'am,
From Dr. B.
during
Mahendra.
home isolation, usually we keep the children who is asymptomatic or with mild symptoms. So as such, there is no restriction of any diet, whatever, but it should be a nutritious diet. We have to maintain the hydration of the child properly. They should not be dehydrated. If at all there is mild diarrhea or any GI symptoms are there, we have to treat that with the ORS. And easily digestible and palatable diet, whatever the child can take, they can take. There is no restriction of any diet for them. Whatever the child can take, but it should be more of a balanced diet, which can improve their immunity. That type of diet can be given.
Right, right. Also comment on these questions.
Yeah, question about the vaccination. Yes, as Madam
Yes,
Shelley
ma'am.
said, the pediatric vaccine are yet to come. So because we have started with Covishield and Covaxin now, so even for adult itself, there's a different level they have done it. 45 and above, and then now they have started with 18. So worldwide vaccine, it's yet to come and we have to wait. But of course, it's strongly been recommended by October. It's going to come the wave 3, and it's going to be affecting mostly the children. So we need to be well prepared. So nowadays we started with a lot of classes for nurses to be prepared, because we didn't have time to prepare last February to take care of COVID-19 for adult, of course. So that's what a lot of preparations are going on. So we have a lot of seminars are conducted. So we will make sure, and not only the pediatric and neonatal ICU nurses, we are creating larger group of nurses to take care to this pediatric age group. That is what it is. So as parents and family, they need to be very careful. Social, now the number has come down. The family has a tendency, children are always at home. Let them go and play with others. We don't know from where it's going to. So we need to be very careful. We have waited for a long time. Let us wait for some more time so that we can safeguard our children.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much, Shirley ma'am, Rohini ma'am, for this talk. Over to you, Dayanand sir.
Okay. VC sir, you like to pass any remarks, sir? VC sir. Okay. Yeah, it's my pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the Vice Chancellor and Registrar of the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, it gives me pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks. And I thank the today's speakers, Dr. Rohini Paul and Lieutenant Colonel Shirley Madam, and making our participants understand about the topic and answered all the questions raised by the participants. On behalf of our Vice Chancellor and Registrar, I thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you, sir.
And then I thank the ECHO India today's for the conducting the today's program. And I thank all the officers of the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Dr. B.J. Mahendra and Dr. Rupashri and Kirti and Somshekhar for their cooperation for the program. And I thank all the participants who are participated in this program. Thank you one and all. And I would like to remind you regarding the next Tuesday's program that it will be on the post-COVID issues by the physiotherapy faculty. And the details of the program and the link will be shared in the due course of time. Okay. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Neha, you can close the meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm closing this meeting.
तो ये touch है